Hi guys, this is Sydney. Thank you so much for listening to Life Relocated. This is our first episode, and we did end up having some technical difficulties. That being said, Susanna and I felt this was a really interesting conversation, so we wanted to share it with you all. Thank you for bearing with us, and enjoy.
Hi,
Hello, I'm Sydney,
I'm Susanna.
and
Nice to meet
we
you
are
all.
here. Yeah, nice to meet you all. We're here with Life Relocated. Um, yeah,
Our new podcast talking about life when girls are relocating to a new country, and we both have our own story, and we decided to discuss about it together.
yes. So we're both in Colombia. I live in Bogota, Colombia.
And I live in Cali
Yes. And we both met, I think in 2013 or 2014. I don't actually remember right now.
around that time. No,
Yeah.
20. I arrived in December 2013, so I think it was
Oh,
2014 when we
okay.
met.
So 2014 makes more sense. And we met in Medellín. We both lived in Medellín until the end of 2018, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that no, well, so I was living also at first in Medellin, and then I was in Santa Marta 2017, and then
Yeah.
shortly back to Medellin 2018, and 2019 I moved to Cali.
Okay. So yeah, I left Medellín the end of 2018, and you left 2019. That sounds right. I knew it was similar, but I couldn't remember exactly when
Hmm.
you had left.
We both went towards the Caribbean, and then to a
Yes.
bigger city inland, and you're in the
Yes, because
capital, and I'm in the salsa capital.
yeah. Because yeah, I lived in Valledupar, which for what, just under a year, which is a small city, it's in the coastal region, about 4 hours from Santa Marta.
And we are here to share our stories as two foreigners in Colombia, and share each of us our own stories, why we chose to live in Colombia, why we chose to relocate in the first place. So yeah, we've
Hmm.
both been here for over 10 years in Colombia, loving it.
Yes.
And we're going to discuss about different topics, what it means to migrate in from our positions. I'm from Finland. You?
I'm from the States, from New York, and I think, like Susanna said, it's about migrating, but also, at least for me, about leaving your comfort zone, about doing what maybe people don't expect you to do, how we ended up doing this. And the reason we decided we wanted to start this podcast, talk about this topic, um, so I Susanna runs her own business. She runs a wonderful tourism business in Cali, and we'll talk more about that at a later date. And and in the last year or so, I've started my own side hustle here in Bogota, and we're both, you know, really working on growing our businesses, or in my case, starting my business. There's a little bit of overlap in what we do, even though they are different. And there was some things I was thinking about, and then Susanna called me because we are close friends. We've, through our experience, we became very close friends in the last decade. That she wanted to see if we could collaborate in some way, and when she was talking to me, kind of we were having this like brainstorming call, or series of voice notes, I think. She said that a lot of people in Cali that take her tour really look at her for guidance, and a lot of it's, how does this woman from Finland end up in Cali, and end up in the capital of salsa, running the best salsa tour in Cali. um, and so it was kind of this story that she was, or brainstorming session, we were talking, and it got me thinking that she has this wonderful and really interesting story to tell. And I had been having a conversation with someone else around the same time about I have a story to tell. It has to do with my business that my story and why I'm here. Uh, almost 13 years? Yeah, it'll be 13 years this year
Mhm.
later. It's an interesting story. And I got thinking, I know all these other women in Colombia or women, we're going to focus a lot on women, but people in general, men too, that have these really, really interesting stories that I've met here. Uh, Travelers, Colombians, foreigners, people here permanently, people passing through, people who thought it would be a, a short stay and it ended long. Like, I think both of us have met a lot of people, oops, that have left the mold of what societal
Mhm.
expectations.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm really lucky that I've gotten to meet a lot of these people over the last decade or more. And I think both of us, we know a lot of people with really interesting stories to tell. So we wanted to create a platform where we can share those stories.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's so much that when I meet foreigners who are visiting Colombia, oh, they've been here for a longer time. We share these common topics. Well, it's nice to talk about the cultural differences. Cultural differences is a never-ending topic, and Colombia is an amazing country and so much culture here. Depending on what part of the country you're living, it's different culture, different type of culture, and just in general, living in another country from your home country where you grew up in, and then living in Latin America and Colombia, the good side and the bad side, the negative and the positive, a lot of that we share with these foreigners that we meet with, and a lot of the things that are unique as a woman or as a European, or coming here with a job sponsored by someone, or coming here independent and see what I can do, like in my case. And so there's a lot of discussion always when we meet with different kind of other foreigners who share similar stories, and then the people who are visiting, more newcomers, they're always very curious to hear how is it living in another country in Latin America, in Colombia. And yeah, it helps to share the stories and share the information. And that's what we aim here also, to share information, so maybe it makes it a bit easier and makes it to relate. It's so nice to meet other people and they've had the same struggles, or they loving the same things, or thinking about our countries where we're coming from, or the cultures where we're coming from, the troubles we had there and the positive that we feel here, or vice versa. What's better there, what's better here? And there's always negatives and positives in each culture. What I always say, you have to choose your negatives and choose your positives and choose the balance. And I've chosen this balance in Colombia, and I love living in Colombia. And it's been a struggle too, certain things. So we want to talk about these different struggles, how to get over and make it easier, maybe if you're thinking about relocating to Colombia or relocating in general. So we're discussing in a wider perspective, and in also in a perspective relocating to Colombia or relocating as a woman. So there's a lot to share about. And maybe, all right, maybe we'll share a little bit more about ourselves now,
Yeah.
our
Well,
stories.
I, I
And
had a question. I had a question from what you just said. Like for you, obviously there's so many things, and that's part of like why we want to start this podcast, to go into a lot of the nuances. But is there just like, if you had to say one thing that stands out as like one of the biggest difference between Finland and Colombia, which I know I'm simplifying it because like you just said, there's already so many cultural differences within Colombia, but if there's one thing of what your life could have been in Finland and what your life is in Colombia, like as a difference, is something speak out? Because I'm just curious, because I have my answer and I'll share that in a second, but I'm curious if your experience in Finland is going to be similar to mine from New York or if it's going to be totally different answers.
Yeah, I have something that comes up right away, and it's the work-life balance and the role that stress plays in the life. And in Latin America, in Colombia, it's less stress than in Europe or in Finland. People here don't talk about stress in a day-to-day discussions like it used to be or when talking with Finnish people. So it's work-life balance. I think it's one way to describe it. How about you?
Well, so first of all, that's so interesting to me because I think the perspective in the US, especially somewhere like New York, people think of Europe as people in Europe having such a better work-life balance than we do. I remember going to Paris when I was about 15, and we were in Lyon visiting like old friends of my father, and they asked what we thought about Paris, and we're like, "Oh, the life in Paris is so relaxed," and they laughed at us because they're like, "What are you talking about? Paris is so stressful." So it surprises me a little bit that you said it. I've never been to Finland, but um, we have this connotation in the US that there's so much better work-life balance in Europe. But yeah,
Hmm.
Colombia does it in another level. And I
Yeah.
had like two immediate like answers to my question. One was also work-life balance. That's the same thing. Um, you know, I come from a family of workaholics. A mix of people who are just really passionate about their work, and then other people who just want to get their work done. And I definitely have much more workaholic tendencies than your average Colombian, but I think being here I've done a much better job of promoting a work-life balance and really being conscious of how I want to spend my free time and having
Yeah.
that free time and you know um, not to say that I never stay late at work, but limit that to when I'm really needed. Or in my 9 to 5, it's very seasonal, so in certain seasons versus all year round. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the first thing, and then the second thing is the concept of like individualistic versus a community-based culture. The U.S. is so
Absolutely.
individualistic, and that's something now as I get older, I like even though people ask a lot, what do I do when I don't have family? Um, I
That's what
have,
Colombians ask all the time. What does
yeah,
your family think? What about family this, family that?
exactly, exactly. And I think even though I'm very far from my family, I think I'm a lot closer to my immediate family than a lot of Americans are. And I try to explain that to people. If I was in the States, I'm from a small town. I'm from New York, but I'm from a small town outside of the city. If I lived in New York, I wouldn't live in my small town because I don't have those same opportunities. And so I'm just a flight away instead of, I don't know, just if I was a couple hour drive doesn't mean I would see my family regularly. And even though I'm far, I talk to someone in my family if not every day, every other day or every 3 days, a couple times a week. Um, and it's made me, I think being here has made me appreciate my family and make an effort to have a good relationship more than I think if I would be in the States, just watching those around me. But also the concept of chosen family. Like,
Hmm.
I think in the US, people have a lot of trouble asking others for favors. I read once that building a community is not by like offering things, it's by asking for things, like not feeling ashamed to ask for help. And I really like that concept. And I have a really good close knit of like my chosen family here in Bogota. And I think with both Colombians and foreigners, it's because Bogota is a capital city. There's also Colombians that don't have family nearby. So we've all made a really conscious effort to, and we've talked about that blatantly. Here, we're here to support you. We're here to support you, whatever you need. I've had a friend take me to the emergency room when I need it. I like the example. How
Same
many
thing.
people do you know that would drive you to the airport? Because this is an issue my mom has. She doesn't like to ask people for favors, and like if my sister or my brother-in-law or my dad can't drive her to the airport, that's kind of she doesn't feel comfortable asking a lot of people. And I mean, granted, in this context, I live incredibly close to the airport and a very, it's easy to get here, but I have, I can think of 10 people off the top of my hand, if not more, that I'm sure if I asked, hey, will you bring me to the airport? Will you pick me up? That I have that, and I know it's okay to ask them, and I know I would do the same for,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
um,
Building the
I was
community.
on bed rest recently, and several people, what do you need? What can I bring you? That sense
Hmm.
of community that I don't think would exist if I stayed in the US.
Yeah, and even though we have foreign friends who live here also and share a
Hmm.
lot of the similar experience, we become more accommodated to the Colombian culture, which is very friendly and which is very helpful. So even though we might not be Colombians like you and me, but we do the Colombian way with each other too, like helping out and so on.
Exactly.
Hey guys, sorry about that abrupt ending, but thank you so much for listening to our first episode of Life Relocated. I know this is a work in progress and this is just our first attempt. I hope you like the content. We're working on making sure we have better quality images and sound. But for now, please enjoy our next episode. Please give us a like and leave any comments. We can't wait to hear your feedback.